All right, so we have done a bunch of unit circle trig, and now we're going to transfer that information and kind of tie together right triangle trig. Today we're going to do this activity just so you can kind of see some basic stuff about trig and why it's important. And then tomorrow we're going to just do some basic triangles where you figure out, you know, sine, cosine, and tangent. And then the rest of this week is going to be word problems. It's going to be all about word problems for it. Okay, so we're going to use a ruler and a protractor. If your protractor has a ruler on the bottom, you don't need another ruler. I don't have a ton of them, so, but you may need a ruler as well. Okay, so let's read through phase 1 that I'm going to do with you, and then you're going to do 2, 3, 4, and 5 on your own. We're going to draw a right triangle with one acute angle of 40 degrees. We're going to label the sides adjacent, opposite, and hypotenuse. We're going to measure the 3 sides. Then we're going to find the ratios of adjacent leg over hypotenuse, opposite over hypotenuse, and opposite over adjacent. Okay? We're going to go to find to the nearest hundredth, so that means 2 decimal places. And then we're going to compare our answers with the class. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to put this now to the side. I've read those out loud to you. Now we're going to follow those examples on here. The first thing I'm going to do is draw a 40-degree angle. So I'm going to mark this. This is phase 1. This is number 1. Okay? I'm going to make a 40-degree angle. So first I'm going to draw a straight line. A lot of you have forgotten how to use a protractor, so please make sure you're paying attention to this part. I've drawn a straight line, and now I'm going to take my protractor and see this little hole in it or the little cross hatches where they intersect. I'm going to put it right on the end point here. And I'm going to mark a spot at 40 degrees. And then I'm going to connect that angle. So this is 40 degrees right here. So I have this angle right here, and then I'm going to draw straight down. Thank you. Okay. All right. So this is now 90 degrees. Okay, if that's my 40-degree angle right there, this side right down here is my adjacent, because adjacent means next to. This side across from it, that's the opposite. And then this slanted part across from the 90 degrees, that's my hypotenuse. Okay, so I've done, this is all number 1. Number 2 is going to be all about measuring these things. We want to measure these in centimeters. Okay, I've got 3.7 centimeters. So yours is going to be different than mine, so you cannot write down the measurements I have. Yours is going to be different. .8 centimeters. This is 5 centimeters. Okay. Now I am going to make a chart, and you guys should too. You should have at least mine, yours, and maybe 2 other people's. So I feel like this chart is the easiest way to keep track of it. So I've done 1 and 2 here. This is going to be 3 and 4. Okay. I'm going to have adjacent over hypotenuse. I'm going to have opposite over hypotenuse. And I'm going to have opposite over adjacent. Okay. So I'm literally just going to put them in here. So my adjacent is 3.7, so I'm going to go 3.7 divided by 5, and I'm going to come up with my answer. 3.7 divided by 5 gives me 0.74. And then opposite over hypotenuse, I've got 3.8 over 5 gives me 7.76. And then I've got opposite over adjacent, so that's 3.8 over 3.7. Is 1.02. I'm going to round up to 1.03. Okay, so right here, this is Miss Murphy's. I need 2 more people's. So I need you to actually do this right now because I need 2 more people's answers. So you should not be on your phone right now. You should be making your own triangle, and you should be measuring the side lengths right now because I need 2 more people's answers so that we can compare them. So you need to find your ratios. You should be drawing this.
Where's your paper?
So Jalen and Carson, you guys are the furthest along. So when you have your ratios, I'm gonna call on you guys. Just so you know.
What did you say? Can I just show you right now?
Sure.
What did you say, Ms. Murphy?
I said Jalen B and Carson, you guys are the farthest along. So when you're done, I'm gonna call on you.
What? How much? So? I'm just gonna let you get it for $50. I don't want $150. You're retarded. No. Well, Well,
Guys, make sure you're measuring them in centimeters. Okay.
what class are we talking about? I got a hundred like 17 in that class. She talking about Washington. I got 115 of these. I don't know. Yes. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
This grade last time I ran to a B. I got a 78 in here. So that test tomorrow. I wouldn't take what you were lying. Test tomorrow. Are you that serious about this quiz though?
If you're not serious, I'm never
Bro, I got an A on the last quiz. My stuff went up like 2%. Oh God.
Exactly, same one, bro. That's bullshit.
But if you get 0, that's gonna go 8%. Exactly. So great.
Okay. 0.77.
I heard from an A to a D.
0.73. 0.9.
Tomorrow.
Okay. So we're gonna finish up with phase 1. So if we look at these, notice that even though we had different side lengths, our adjacent over hypotenuse is pretty close to each other. Okay? They're all less than, 0.14 off. This is, all of these are 0.7, 0.72, 0.73, very close. These are all super close to 1. So even though we had different lengths, we had very similar ratios. So that's what we're going to write down. We had different lengths. But very similar ratios. Okay, so that's phase 1. So you guys are going to move on to phase 2.
Do it ourselves, you said?
Yeah, and phase 2 is you're going to draw a sketch, does not have to be to scale, of what your triangle would look like if it's dilated by a factor of 3. That means whatever length you found these 3 sides to be, you're going to times them by 3. So they should be 3 times as big. So we're just going to make a bigger triangle. You don't have to measure it. You can simply just times each of these by 3 and write them down. And then you're basically doing the same thing. For phase 3, you're going 1 divided by the hypotenuse and timesing it. So if mine's 5 centimeters, I'm going to go 1 over 5 times 5, 1 over 5 times 3.8, 1 over 5 times 3.7 to do phase 3. Okay? So I'm just timesing it by 1 over whatever the hypotenuse is. Okay? So you have 2, 3, 4, and 5 to do before the end of the hour, or it's homework. And I don't believe you need a compass for the rest of these, except for maybe phase 5. So otherwise you're good.